Greetings guys. So today in front of you another tech video, and the main star of it is a 10-year-old Dell Optiplex 755. So the reason I decided to show off this computer is the following. I have been a Mac user, as you probably also can see from my last tech video about the Power Manager 4. I've been a Mac user for a decade, and I pretty much forgotten all about Windows. Of course, for work I used Windows 7 and actually a couple of times tried Windows 8 and even Windows 10, which I both hate, by the way. But yeah, the only latest Windows that I have good experience with was Windows 7, and from back in the day I had one phone game that only was released on Windows, well, because it's also a Microsoft game, which is Flight Simulator 2004, which I can still consider the best flight simulator ever made. So I decided to look around if I could find a cheap but still a fairly strong machine that could give me all the things I want out of a Windows machine. Well, this was it. I purchased this machine about a month ago locally for 20 euros. So it was extremely cheap. Back then it had a Pentium dual core CPU in it, so it was actually a very old and not very powerful CPU, and it had 3 gigabytes of RAM. I changed both of those things, so let me show you a bit around the computer first. So in front, as you can see, it has a DVD burner, a laptop style one, and it even has a 3.5-inch floppy drive, which is quite funny because I think the last time I used floppy disks was very early 2000s, and since then I never actually touched one. So that's maybe something I will go back to just for nostalgic purposes. Alright, so there's two USB 2.0s, headphone jack, and an audio input. One of the main reasons I got this machine is also for the connectivity it has. So there's the following connectivity. Once again, it has this is the audio output, and here's the microphone and audio input. Ethernet. It actually has 6 2.0 USB ports, so that's quite nice. And that's the main attractions. It has a parallel port and a serial port, which is very useful for very old devices, like for example an old Nokia phone with ancient software that will still run on Windows 7, and because they only have cables usually that have serial, I will be able to connect to it. So it's a good thing. Since it's SFF, small form factor PC, so it has low profile PCI slots, and it was filled when I purchased the machine. It has GT 430 GeForce, 1 gigabyte DDR3 video card. It's an old card. Of course, it won't do great with modern games, but for the purposes I want from this machine, it will deliver great results. Really, really great results. And this machine is also extremely easy to work on. So lift the top off. So the following stuff we have in it. Right here, that's the CPU. That's the here. This part is the cooling fan. This is the heatsink. And so recently I upgraded the CPU from Pentium D, which was I think 2.2 gigahertz dual core, to one of the top of the line CPUs that this machine can handle, which is a Core to Quad Q6600 at 2.4 gigahertz. It's I have to say a very powerful CPU, especially even for this day, especially if you just want to do some productivity work and maybe light gaming. The Geekbench score of it is 1600 single core and 4500 on multi-core. So it's very reasonable and very usable. Everything works smoothly. So right here it has 80 gigabytes of SATA hard drive. It's a Seagate, and this is the GeForce GT 430, which also has a cable running from it to a VGA bracket. That's the CPU. That's the power supply. It's 275 watts, so it's not the strongest, but it does the job. Brilliantly. So yeah, that's the machine pretty much. And speaking of RAM, this machine takes two kinds of RAM. It takes DDR2 5300, which is 667 megahertz, and it also takes DDR2 6400. DDR2 5300 and DDR2 6400. The 6400 is the 800 megahertz. Right now I have in it just the 5300. I have 4 modules. 3 are 2 gigabytes each and 1 is 1 gigabyte. So it's 7 gigabytes in total, and it can be maxed out at 8. But at 7 it works, to put it in simple terms, brilliantly, especially for its age. So that's pretty much all the internals. Everything is very removable. This hard drive caddy can be lifted out easily. The hard drive can be replaced. It also has a cooling fan underneath to cool the hard drive. When I was putting a new CPU in it, it had a lot of dust in the van and in the heatsink, so that was all cleaned out. Now the machine purrs again instead of sounds like a small jet engine. That's the SATA DVD burner, and underneath is the floppy drive. So after this jump cut, I will show you the machine running. So welcome back. The machine is all connected and booted up. So let me show you the good old CPOZ software that shows all the specs the correct way. As you can see, it has CPU Core to Quad Q6600, at 2.4 gigahertz. That's the main board. That's the memory. 7038 megabytes, so 7 gigs of DDR2. And that's the graphics card, the NVIDIA GeForce GT 430 DDR3. If I really wanted it, I can easily put a very modern low-profile card in it, which will deliver a lot of higher results. But I really have no need for it. Because let me see, as you can see, the only main reason for this machine is right there, Flight Simulator 2004. So there it is. So internet browsing goes brilliantly. Here is a Firefox. It plays YouTube exactly as it should, without any hiccups whatsoever. Oh joy, go away, thank you very much. So just to give you a small example of my favorites video channels of all time.
Intel keeps very careful track of its internal engineering samples, going to great lengths to ensure
As you can see, it's
that
1080p.
they leave the lab, it is in pieces so small that they could never be reassembled again. So the first question we need to answer is, how did we get our hands on this thing? eBay, obviously. What can't you buy on eBay? A sponsorship online is tech.
Hopefully he will not flag this. This is not to copy of leech of his work or something like that. But yeah, as you can see, it works extremely smoothly. All the videos load instantly. There's no slowdowns, at least as far as I tested it at the moment. All the programs work exactly as they should. So that's if someone, for example, for very little money needs a good functioning computer, this is exactly the way to go. In total, I spent 40 euros all in. The RAM upgrade was 10 euros including shipping, and the same applies for the CPU. And no, hang on, I spent 195 on the new for thermal paste, but that's about it. So it's a powerful computer, even it was released 10 years ago, and it's very usable, especially for all the games. And Windows 7 is, in my experience, the last operating system for Microsoft that can run very old 90s games without any hiccups. So the games that actually need a CD to install, not that damn Steam crap where you have to pay real money for digital only games without any packaging, without any discs, without any beautiful manuals or something like that. So that's why I only really can recommend going this way if you want a very usable computer for the modern day and to be able to run applications from way back in the day. Thank you for watching my video. I will upload another one very soon.